Welcome to another edition of Mortgage Talks. I'm your host, Adam Hires. We are actually going to be changing this to Genius Loan Officer podcast. So big things in store there. I have a amazing guest on today. If you're in the mortgage industry, you don't know him. I don't know. You're living under a rock maybe. But we have Barry Habib here from MBS Highway. Good to have you on.
Thanks, Adam. It's good to be with you.
Absolutely. So, love to hear, what you think the, mortgage industry is doing. We want to go a little bit of your story, what led you to open MBS Highway, and, just a little bit of that journey.
Well, I'm a big believer that we should try to achieve exponential growth as opposed to linear growth. When you think about things linearly, if I took 30 steps, I'd probably go about 25 yards or so, get me from one end of my office to another. But if I take 30 linear steps, that's about the distance that I'd go. However, if they were exponential steps, I would go around the world 10 times. It'd be about 255,000 miles. So if we can grow exponentially, that's really the way we want to think. And I found that the best way to grow exponentially is to remove points of friction. Fortunately or unfortunately, there's lots of points of friction out there. What most people do is when they come up to a point of friction, they just bitch about it and they say, oh, well, somebody ought to do something about that. But if you can really think it through and you can resolve that point of friction, you can achieve enormous growth. So when it came to anything that I've done, in the mortgage industry, I thought a big point of friction where people just weren't educated on the financial markets, and they did one loan at a time instead of two loans at a time to try and plan for an individual's financial future and using a mortgage as a tool. So that gave me exponential growth as an originator, and I was able to become the top originator in the US way back in the day. And when I saw what was going on in the mortgage industry, and I saw that people really were getting burned by reprices and putting themselves in a position where it created a lot of anxiety, not knowing when to lock. I thought that was a big point of friction. And that's when I created Mortgage Market Guide, and that grew exponentially. It just blew up. It was huge. And I decided that the time was right for me to sell that. But then, I did some other fun things too. I got into the medical industry, and in the medical industry, I noticed that people, when they went for scans, that they would have a lot of anxiety because the physician would not be able to speak to them for quite some time. Now, the tech knew what was going on, and they can't talk to you though. So most people don't have the physician's cell phone number handy, so they have to wait 4 or 5 days, and the anxiety gets to you. So why do we have to put people through this? Let's get a radiologist right there. And took a big gamble, but it turned out to be the right formula because people loved that and grew that to 3 centers and then sold that. When I got into the entertainment realm and had Rock of Ages, I noticed that when people would come to the show on Broadway, that they'd want to have a beverage before the show. Those beverages are not cheap. The theater charges a lot. And then what would happen is that people were sometimes late. They were rushed. They had to wait online. And when the show started, you could not bring you were prohibited on Broadway from bringing your drinks to the seats.
Yeah.
So people would already start off before they watched my show. They'd already have kind of like a bad feeling, It's like, why do we have to do that? So it took a while. I said, listen, why can't we let them drink in the seats? They said, no, we don't allow that. I said, why? We've never done that before. Well, it's not a really good answer for me. So it took a while, but and a lot of effort and spent some money, but I was able to allow drinking in the seats at Rock of Ages, and Rock of Ages really became a great experience because people had more fun. We took it to the extreme. We had people coming around giving you shots if you want shots. So it made for like a great atmosphere at the show that no one else had. And now all of them on Broadway do that. But these are things that helped in every single case create enormous exponential growth where, you go around linearly like this, step by step, you're growing. But if you find a point of friction and you could then identify it, alleviate it, growth becomes massive and exponential. So it's a long way of answering your question. When I started MBS Highway, there were quite a few things that I saw within the mortgage and real estate industry for people that really didn't understand how to combat the negativity in the media, the misinformation in the media with regards to the opportunity in real estate. They didn't know how to amplify their message. Somebody tells you, hey, you should do videos on social media. Okay, here's my phone. Great. Hi. What the hell do you say? Okay, so we said, let's turn your computer into a teleprompter. Let's make it easy. Let's create the script. You could edit it, but we'll create a script. We'll scroll it, change the font size, scroll speed to your liking. And now people are posting videos and getting gazillion hits. So we see points of friction, we alleviate them. When people are discouraged today because they can't find inventory, you want to keep them in the game. It's a big problem for realtors, big point of friction. So by showing them the opportunity, showing them the cost of waiting, showing them what's going to be in that property, you keep people engaged. If people don't have enough money for the down payment because the bidding over asking price is going to cause you to potentially come up with more money. And that becomes an issue because now your appraisal, as you know, is based on the lower of appraised value or purchase price. And today, a lot of that is based on appraised value. So people are coming up short. I want to buy the home. I don't know. I qualify to buy the home. I'm qualified to buy more. I just don't have the cash anymore, or I've exhausted my sources. So we show you ways to alleviate that point of friction by taking not a lower rate, but a higher rate, getting some credit for your closing costs, using that. And in addition to that, showing people how much they should bid over asking price. We're the only ones that create it. It's a big point of friction. 57% of transactions today, multiple offers above asking price. 57%. It's crazy, right? Yeah. So people are going like this. Well, okay, I guess how much more should I go? And they get competitive, they get emotional, and sometimes they make bad decisions. I see homes that are valued at 500, sellers got it at 550, and somebody's going at 625. Well, you ask me if there's a housing bubble. No, but you just put yourself in your own housing bubble. Because if you're paying 625 for a home that's worth 500, that's not a smart thing to do. In some cases, it might be if the appreciation in that market is tremendous, and you might see that come back in 8-10 months, maybe, although it's very, very rare. But for the most part, that's something you should probably back off of. But people don't know how to gauge it. It's a big point of friction. So what we'll do is we'll show you at what point in time in the future, based upon really good estimates, when that home value will come up to meet what you're bidding over asking price. Now people can make a decision. Hey, is it 4 months? Is it 6 months a day? I could probably live with that. Is it 6 years or 8 years? Yeah. Maybe I should think about that. So when we opened up MBS Highway, it was for all the above reasons and many, 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 many more that we help alleviate points of friction so that our subscribers achieve exponential growth by helping their referral partners achieve exponential growth, helping those customers make better decisions. And as a result, the benefit for us is we've been enjoying exponential growth year after year in MBS Highway.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love the, the biggest thing is you're solving, sorry about that. I'm gonna have to shut that. Can you hear that road noise?
We don't hear anything. You sound great.
That's great. Good. I was like, man, I can hear something. But anyway, you're solving a huge problem, right? I mean, that's what it boils down to.
Not just one, multiple fronts, Adam.
Right. Exactly.
Continuously. And the great thing about this is that there will always be problems, and there'll always be new problems. So if you have the mindset, instead of bitching about it,
right,
if you have the mindset is first thing I want to identify it. And then how can I fix this problem? Then the good news is you will achieve exponential growth.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Stop bitching about it. I think that's a huge thing with originators is, man, it is tough to close a loan, or it's, any of this friction that's going on is that, that's, obviously that's job security, right? Because if, there wasn't any kind of problems, then what would be your true value? And so if you're searching out how to continue to get ahead of those problems and how to alleviate it for the client, then you're going to win. You're going to help them win. And I tell you what, you're just going to continue to have exponential growth, as you said. I love that. Obviously there's been struggles along the way, somewhere, somehow. And I just want to, because you have had that exponential growth, but I always love to hear, some of the struggles maybe you went through, and then how that you come to the other side and how that really helped you.
I go through struggles every day. I've had an awful day today, but you get through it. So the way I start my day every day is just ritual. Is I start every single morning after I have some coffee so I can kind of function better, um, with gratitude.
Yeah.
And it just puts things in perspective, because you're going to have shitty days. That was a really shitty day today, just happened to be for me. Okay. Like everything went wrong. Um, but you get perspective.
Right.
So, okay, I've got a lot of stuff going right. Let me remind myself of all of those amazing things that are going right so that you can better deal with it. And you keep yourself in a good mind frame that way. You have to laugh about it sometimes too, because it's just so ridiculous how everything can go wrong for you in a day or times. Uh, you just got to have to take a step back and say, okay, you know, this sucks, but there's a lot of really good stuff too. So it's okay to deal with. And then I'm a very spiritual person, so I also pray every day, and that's my morning routine. So that's how I start every single day. So how do we deal with it? I deal with that every single day. But adversity, yeah, there's been a ton of adversity. I mean, geez, I was like many people that are listening, had very challenging times when I was a kid. My parents were immigrants; they didn't speak the language. I was not an expected child. My dad was 57, my mom was 40, and my dad passed away when I was very young. My mom worked in the sweatshop. We were really, really super poor. We really struggled, and those were a lot of adversities, and every step of the way. I'm a really kind person. I'm a very giving person, and I've gotten screwed over by lots of folks along the way because I have been so nice and try and help others, and people don't respond the same way or act the same way. So I've had people that kind of screw you over, and you don't want to change yourself as a person because you still want to um, be able to relate to those that are good, because I believe most people really are good.
Yeah.
um, so, and I'm a very optimistic person. By the way, that's a very common trait among successful people is optimism. Just remember that.
Absolutely.
Really common thread. So keep an optimistic mindset. So yeah, constant struggles. There's going to be struggles on the horizon for me, in the future, lots of them. But to get through them, again, perspective is really important,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of good things too. There are a lot of people that would love to have the problems that I have. They would love to have the lousy day that I just had, right? They would love that. I just
Right.
have to remember that. And we all do, because as tough as it can get sometimes, yeah, sure, it can always be better, but it probably can always be a lot worse too.
Yeah. Well, I always just think, when we're having our little minor problems, or which really are minor, is that, all the luxuries you have, if you were to transplant all of our luxuries and we went back to like 1800, we would be like the king of the castle, right? We'd like what they can, talk to anybody around the world. They can, you know, hop in their vehicle and go over here, etc. I mean, we really do need to get perspective. I mean, there's so many people are struggling out there. The mortgage industry is a great business. It's a, can be a very hectic business. It can chew you up and spit you out if you don't have perspective and you don't have, I think, a good base. And I think that there's just a beautiful opportunity to help a lot of folks. And I think we always, obviously, anybody listening out there needs to understand the beautiful opportunity we have. And all these problems are great opportunities. And I love having that perspective and just waking up in the morning with gratitude, because we all should be grateful for what we have. And I tell you what, that is, and you said optimism, 100%. We always have to be optimistic. It's a success back here, Winston Churchill, going from one failure to the next without losing enthusiasm. Hey, we all struggle. And I love that you're sharing that you're struggling now, because you are ultra successful. And the fact is, we're always going to struggle with some things. We're always having some problems. But when you have that base, that perspective, it's kind of like I always say, like a boxer, when they're in really great shape, they get knocked down, they are able to pop up a little quicker when they're just in a little better shape, when they run that extra mile. And so it's the same thing in business. When we run that extra mile, we self-reflect, we do all the internal things, then we were just recover so much quicker. It's not that we don't get knocked down, it's just we get back up so much quicker when we work on that. So I love that. And so, obviously we talked about how loan officers are really, looks like they're winning with a lot of strategies. within MBS Highway, what's been some of the biggest wins here, lately you've seen some LOs really take advantage of with MBS Highway?
I mentioned a couple of them. The bid over ask tool is huge. Obviously, understanding the market, that's important. We do a video every day that allows you to be better prepared and scripted so that when you talk to your customer, you sound like a professional. It's a really bad thing if your customer knows more about the market than you do. That'd be like me walking into the doctor's office and knowing more than my physician does. It's not a good look.
Yeah.
It's not somebody I want to deal with. So the other thing is it's highly, highly competitive online and other competitors out there. People are going to talk to more than one person. And that's how they're going to make the decision. If they speak to someone else who sounds better than you, sometimes it's all about rate, but not always, right? It's a lot about trust. I mean, that's what the biggest issue is: trust. You gain trust much more rapidly if you have expertise. And if you can show that customer that you have that expertise, because think about what it says about you as a human being. So if I've gained expertise, I wasn't born with it. It means I'm willing to put in the hard work and effort.
Yeah.
So your brain is a brilliant computer. It analyzes that immediately. And it says, oh, okay, so this person's obviously knowledgeable. They've done all the work. That means they're serious. That means they follow through. That means that they go the extra mile. It means they have aptitude.
Yeah.
That's probably somebody I want to do business with, because if I'm going to hand the largest transaction in my life over to someone, I probably should be dealing with someone who has or masters those qualities. Now, not everybody's going to feel that way. Some people for $20 a month will go somewhere else. Pretty stupid, if you ask me, to have that attitude, because I'm going to buy a $400,000 home and worry about $20 a month in making the decision as to what to do. But that's what happens. Consumers are misinformed. They think this is like buying a flat screen TV and it's all about price. But if you can impress upon people, because you put in the time, the knowledge, the effort, that you can show people how this is not like buying a flat screen TV. Right. The monthly payment may be the same for any lender who receives it, but that monthly payment affects the borrower who is paying it differently every single time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That $1,400 or $2,200 a month payment will impact that individual here very different than this individual here. And if you try and put everybody in a cookie cutter where it's just all about rate, then you're missing how it impacts one family versus another, how the difference in down payment, what their needs might be.
Right.
And I said this quickly before, but one of the things that changed my career was stop doing one mortgage at a time and do two at a time. That means instead of focusing on the mortgage I'm doing for you today, it acts as a puzzle. And what I would like to do is intersect the mortgage I'm going to do for you today with a strategy of how it intersects with the next mortgage that we're going to do. It could be on the same home, could be on a different home. And the longevity of that loan will take into consideration what we're going to be doing for choice of product, choice of fees, choice of MI. Then there's the market conditions. The market conditions will tell us. For example, I told everybody in 2019, don't pay points, don't pay upfront MI, and take a higher rate to the extent you can, not a lower rate, and include your closing costs. Because in those three examples, there's typically a 4, 5, 6 year break-even period that you'd be better off taking the advice I said. Now, after 5 or 6 years, that would not have been the good advice to have, except that we knew there was a recession coming. We knew rates were going to drop. Sure enough, we got that before COVID. Recession officially started January 31st, 2020, 2 months before the lockdowns, or almost 2 months. And we knew that those recession-like conditions were going to be present, offering a great refinance opportunity. And everybody who listened to us and everybody who told their clients that looks like a champion. Those similar conditions, Adam, are at play right now. We think 2022 at the end of it, maybe 2023, looks like recessionary conditions once again, which should pressure interest rates lower. We might go through a period of higher rates, but there is going to be an opportunity. So we should have that mindset once again. So there's the puzzle. I'm doing a loan for you today, but the choice of what I'm doing on that loan has to intersect with that. Plus, then there's the third component. What about your needs? Is your kid's college education paid for? Is your retirement set? And how do we use this mortgage structure to make sure that we're going to accomplish those? Let's talk about your income. Are you gaining an income? Is your income going to go up? Are you going to lose an income because you want to have a family and you might be, at least for a period of time, having one person stay at home? These are the types of questions that people want. It just kills me because some mortgage professionals shy away from that. Like, oh gosh, too personal. Are you freaking kidding me? You meet somebody for 7 seconds and you say to them, hey, how much money do you make? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. How much money you got in the bank? Let me look at anything you've done credit wise. I want to look at all the credit hits you have. Let me check into your divorce, see how nasty that was. That we got no problem with. That's okay. But to say, hey, how can I help make sure you're going to get your kid's college paid for by using this mortgage correctly? That you have a problem with?
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. So when you look at it as bizarro as that is, for some people that listen to this, they say, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I teach in Genius Loan Officer, our coaching platform is, again, rate, you talked about rate shoppers, right? But they're only rate shopping because they don't know what else to ask. That's the biggest thing. Just clients don't know what to ask. We should ask those questions, go deeper. How long are they planning to have this home? I mean, just like someone, for example, he was shopping rates, and then we have a deeper discussion, and really he's only going to keep that for 2 years. He knows for sure. Well, do we really want to have that best rate? He didn't get closing cost. We talked about it. Go up the rate sheet, give us some money back. He's still coming ahead. Having those deeper conversations rather than just saying, oh, they gave you a 3.125. Okay, let's give you a 3, or what, let's have, or even if you're not as good, your rates are not as good. If you're the professional, you're going down those paths, you can absolutely win. And it's what's best for the client. And they're going to trust you. They're going to have, because you have their best interest at heart. So
Adam, I always say this. I always say the best rate, literally the best rate on the wrong strategy is far more expensive than a competitive rate on the right game plan and strategy for your future. It's that simple. And how many people every single day make the foolish decision to not think about that and go for the lowest rate and then screw themselves literally for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars by chasing the lowest rate on the wrong strategy. Just think about that. And but the key is that while we know it and we agree with it, how do we impress that upon the customer? The way you impress that upon the customer is by earning and building trust with them. As I said, you build trust very quickly if you have the knowledge. If you start having this conversation with the customer pretty quickly, they'll start to see that they need to start paying attention and listen to you. The other thing that's really important is to always be treating that customer as if they were your parent, your child, your best friend, and stop being on the opposite side of the table from them and metaphorically sit on the same side of the table as if you're looking over their shoulder. And what you need to do is point out all the things that they need to watch out for, all the things they need to be concerned about. Do not be afraid to talk about all of the negative aspects of the transaction, because that is what ultimately builds the most trust. And it's just not having the fear. Let it go. Forget your commission. Just think about the customer's best interest, and you will build trust very, very quickly.
Oh yeah, friction and great conversations, and having the client's best interest in mind is always going to build that trust and rapport that you need to be the real professional and get them where they need to go. So I hope everybody out there is really listening to that because you're concerned so much about not being the lowest rate out there. There's so many loan officers just worried about being the lowest rate, and oftentimes that's not the right question to be asking. The right questions to be asking is deeper diving into what's their financial future. What they, Barry's gave you all the tools here. So you may want to even re-listen to this and maybe re-listen to it again before you have a conversation with a client. Am I deep diving enough into what's going on in their life, in their future? And maybe you can have a great conversation and lead to just being the true professional. And you're going to feel really good about it when you know, hey, I did something that nobody else is going to do. I'm going to have the conversation nobody else is going to have. I'm going to set them up that where nobody else would. And this is invaluable to people. So continue to learn the craft and love it. And, if you go by MBS Highway, learn what they got going on over there, because there's a lot of good things going on at MBS Highway, a lot of tools. Barry's always putting out great content as he has on this. So keep listening in, follow them, MBS Highway. Before we go real quick, is there any other opportunities maybe that loan officers are not maybe taking advantage of enough, you feel like right now, that we haven't spoke about?
I think you're crazy if you don't become a certified mortgage advisor. And you want to be a master of your craft, don't you? And, if you go up against someone who is a certified mortgage advisor, you're going to be at a disadvantage. Why have that? Those numbers are growing every day. More people are getting certified. Become a certified mortgage advisor, CMA. Just it boggles my mind how much money you can make in this business, and how every single day people cheat themselves and cheat their families out of the wealth that they can create, out of the life that they can have for them, out of the unbelievable experiences that they could give customers, out of the good they could do in the world, because they're afraid to invest in themselves. People ask me all the time, they say, Barry, I know you're involved in the markets, what do you think of the stock market? What do you think of the cryptos? What do you think about it? And then they say, well, what's the best investment? Where should I put my money? So here's the best investment. You ready? It's right here in your brain. Invest in your brain.
Yeah.
And practice the words that you choose, because that articulation of the thoughts within your brain will drive your success. It's very, very simple. If you invest in your brain and you practice and you rehearse your delivery, you become an unstoppable force for good, for helping people, for doing the right thing, which gives you fulfillment. And what in the world are you waiting for? Why would you not want that? Why would you not want that great feeling of doing the best for your referral source, for your customer, for your family, for yourself, and feeling like you're a champ, feeling like you're the best?
Yeah.
That's a great feeling. I know I don't ever want to not feel that way in anything I do.
Yeah. That's great advice. I mean, I always say the same thing: invest in yourself. It is the greatest investment. I was just having a conversation at my favorite place, Jake's Cigar Bar, in Lexington, Kentucky. Shout out to them, and having some good partner conversations. And somebody was almost saying, "Wow, that's crazy that they invested that much money in themselves and the coaching." And they were the top producer in in their company, in the real estate. And I was like, well, it's no coincidence, right, that they were the top producer. They invested in themselves. They turned around and said, okay, well, how can I invest to make myself better? Have somebody hold me accountable. Continue to work on the craft. And if you continue to work on your craft, the right conversations, I'll tell you what, you're a master communicator. You're a master in making sure people are just really taken care of. At the end of the day, you're going to see it, you're going to reap the benefits, that's for sure. So if you on the fence about MBS Highway, go over there, see what they got going on. I think that after this, if you don't understand, Barry is out there and his brand, MBS Highway, is not trying to help you grow, then I think you're missing the boat. So invest in yourself, go over there, check it out. And I'm looking forward to people telling me how much this helped them grow their business, and not just think about that mortgage, but the next mortgage for their amazing folks they're helping.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Appreciate the great work that you're doing. For those of you listening, God bless you guys. Wishing you all the best, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Barry.
Bye.
Limited risk equals limited income.